Hi, and welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy, and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, December 16th, 2022. A huge welcome to any new viewers or returning viewers. I really appreciate you checking this video out, and I hope that you enjoy it. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. You can find me online on Instagram and Etsy at Noble Character Crafts, and you can get in contact with me through my email at noblecharactercrafts@yahoo.com. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as show notes for this episode. I am hosting a year-long make-along on Instagram this year, which is the Make 9 2022 MAL, and that is for you to join in the Make 9 challenge, where you choose 9 projects that you would like to make this year, which of course is coming to an end very quickly, but I am going to be hosting this make-along again in 2023, so it is just for you to join in the Make 9 challenge, where you choose 9 projects that you would like to make throughout the year, post a grid of the projects that you would like to make, and then anytime that you work on those projects, you can show progress or finished objects using the hashtag Make 9 2022 MAL. And then starting January 1st, we'll be moving on to the Make 9 2023 MAL. So if you want to be just thinking ahead to next year, that would be great as well. And then I periodically throughout the year will continue to draw prizes. If you include that hashtag, any one of your posts that include that hashtag will enter you to win a prize throughout the year. So I have so enjoyed seeing all of your projects throughout 2022. I have just done a horrendous job of working on either of the 2 Make 9 boards that I made. If I am right, I believe I only made 1 project from each of my boards. So I've just thrown in the towel and given up for this year, but I'm going to try to be really realistic and more thoughtful about what I can actually get done in 2023 when I make my new board for next year. And I'm only going to make 1 board for next year. I just really made my goals way too lofty last year, which I knew ahead of time. I think I even said that when I shared my 2 boards at the beginning of the year, that I was probably never going to be able to get them all done, and I didn't even come close. So anyway, I wanted to give away a couple of more prizes today to those of you that have been doing much better than I have on your boards. I was gifted several beautiful skeins of yarn. I showed them off a few episodes ago, and I wanted to give away a few of those goodies today. The first prize is this set of 3 hanks of yarn from Brooklyn Tweed in their Arbor line, which is 100% American Targhee wool, and it is worsted weight, I believe. No, DK weight, I'm sorry. And the 3 colorways are, these are all 50-gram hanks, I believe. Yes. This first one is kind of it's really a difficult color to see, but it's pretty much a dark charcoal, I guess. And it's called Humpback. And then I guess compared to the brown, maybe you can kind of tell better its color. This dark brown is called Loam, L-O-A-M. And the lighter color is called Crumb. So I'll be gifting all 3 of these as a set. And the winner of this set is Essie, E-S-S-I is her name, and she is Tuohi Knits on Instagram. So congratulations to you, Essie. If you would please get in contact with me, let me either contact me through my email address, or you can contact me through direct message on Instagram and let me know your full name and mailing address, and I'll be happy to get these off in the mail to you as soon as possible. Congratulations to you. And then the next prize, let me put these somewhere safe. The next prize is another hank of yarn, this one from Dragon Horde Yarn. It's in this beautiful colorway called Persephone. And it is on her Myth fingering base, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. The winner of this hank is Stephanie at Texas Peach Knits, and I just was looking on her Instagram page and noticed that she also has a YouTube channel, so I need to check that out. So congratulations to you, Stephanie. I'm so happy that you were able to win a prize. And again, for you, just let me know your full name and mailing address and I'll get this off in the mail to you as well. Congratulations to you as well. And again, thank you to everybody who's been participating. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you all are planning for 2023. And I've been thinking about my board and I need to get it, ready so that I can share it all with you, hopefully at the beginning of the next year. I have a few finished objects that I finished earlier and I already gifted them. So I recorded a video before I gifted those makes to their recipients. So I will insert that video here. I have a few finished objects to share with you all, and I'm pre-recording this section because I need to get these things off to their recipients before I record a regular episode again. So that's why I am recording this at a different time than the rest of the episode. The first of which is this scarf that I knit for my mom. She requested that I knit this scarf for her to go along with a hat that she inherited from her mom after she passed away. And the hat is I hope this color. It's just a, plain creamy colored, I hope. I'm afraid it might be a little bit lighter than this yarn, but anyway, it's just a plain colored, just a natural colored hat that has Angora in it, so it's fuzzy. And my mom wanted a scarf to go along with that hat, and she had been looking for one, I guess, in stores for a while, and then it dawned on her that she could just ask me to make her one. And so I'm so happy that she asked me to make her this scarf. I love making things for my mom, but it's to the point now where I've made her so many things that I really just don't know what to make her that she could use and that she would like. So I love that she requested something so that I can make her something that I know she will like and use. So this is just a super simple garter stitch scarf, which I don't believe I've ever made before. This is typically one of the first things that people knit when they learn to knit. And in fact, when I first started knitting, I was knitting a swatch that was probably very similar to this, but in bulkier yarn. But I ripped it out and it never actually became a scarf. But anyway, it was very similar in size to this one. But anyway, I cast on 40 stitches using 2 yarns held double. I used a worsted weight non-superwash merino wool. Both of these yarns are undyed. And I held it together with a lace weight silk mohair blend. And it has just made a really beautiful and fuzzy, cozy fabric. Again, I just cast on 40 stitches. I used a US 8 5mm needles. And so that my mom requested that it match the size of another scarf that she owns. So it's 10 inches wide and 65 inches long. So it's a nice long size and it can definitely wrap around a few times. So it just makes a beautifully cozy scarf. And I'm so glad I was able to get this done pretty quickly. I should look how long it took me. Not too terribly long, although, it was long. It's a long scarf, but I started on November 19th and finished it on December 5th, a little ahead of schedule of where I had calculated. I thought I was not going to get done with it until December 8th, but I got it done a little bit ahead of schedule, so that was great. Anyway, it's super, super warm. So hopefully my mom will really love it and enjoy wearing it. I'm so glad I was able to get it done. Her birthday is coming up next week. And so I'm excited to get this off in the mail to her. It's next weekend. So I am recording this on Saturday, December 10th. So her birthday is actually a week from today. So anyway, I am excited to get this off in the mail to her. And it will be a nice birthday present for her. I should mention what I'm wearing today. I am wearing a cardigan that I'll link to the episode that I described, or that I talked about this as a finished object, but I remember that the pattern I used for this is the Gigi cardigan by Devin Ventry of Knitty McPurly, but I'm pretty sure I highly modified the pattern, but I'll link to that episode so that you can get more details if you're interested. I used I don't remember how many colors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe 6 different colors of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted weight. So if you're curious about what I'm wearing. And then I also received another request from my mom. She wanted a pair of mittens knit just as Christmas decoration. And she said that she wanted them to be a child size mitten and to be knit in red, white, and green yarn. And so I made these little cuties. I again used the World's Simplest Mittens pattern by Tin Can Knits. It's a free pattern. I showed off another pair of finished mittens in my last episode, which I was able to gift to Abby, the recipient, by the way, and they fit her perfectly. I'll insert a picture here of her wearing them so you can see how nicely they fit her. So that was wonderful, and she loves them. Anyway, so I was able to work these up really quickly. That free pattern by Tin Can Knits comes with instructions to make mittens for all sizes and fingering, I believe, DK, worsted, and chunky weight yarn. I believe those are the 4 different weights that the instructions come for. So it's really an awesome pattern. They're knit from the cuff to the tip of the fingers. The different yarns that I used, the red is a mystery yarn that my friend Tina gifted to me. The green is actually also from Tina. That is a yarn bee, no, it's Baby Bee Little Britches in the Baby Camo colorway. That's an 85% acrylic, 15% polyamide. And then the cream color is I Love This Yarn by Hobby Lobby in the Ivory colorway, which is 100% acrylic. Again, these are all worsted weights. And I made the child size, and I followed the pattern exactly. And I just striped every other round with the 2 different colors of the cream and the green. So that was fun, and they worked up really quickly. And then I just crocheted a long chain, and it's hooked one chain to each mitten, and then I tied them in a bow because she's going to display them in a little Christmas setup that she has with some ice skates that she got, some antique ice skates. And so she wanted these to kind of go along with her little display she has set up. So I think that will be really cute. So I just did a chain of 55 stitches and then just tied them in a bow. And I just think they're so sweet. So those worked up really quickly as well. And I'll get those off in the mail with the scarf. And then the last thing that I want to show you all as a finished object is a balaclava that I knit for a man that we go to church with. He is a farmer, and he asked if I would be willing to make him like a ski mask, basically. And he brought this one to church and gave it to me. He said, "This is what I want, but I just would really like the face opening to be tighter." So you can just see that he has worn this one threadbare. I think it's so neat, really, that he has worn it so much that it has all of these holes in it. And he said he really liked the fit of this. He just really wanted the face opening to be more narrow. So I was more than happy to knit him up something. I said, "Do you care what kind of yarn I use? Would you like it to be wool or acrylic?" He's like, "I don't know." He says, "What's this made out of?" So I said, "Well, this is acrylic." And he said, "Yeah, just do that. That sounds good." He didn't care what color I had made it in or anything. He wasn't particular about that. So I have made this pattern several times. I have knit one of these balaclavas for all 5 of my children, and then I also knit one for my husband a while ago. And I knew that this pattern worked up really well. So this is the basic balaclava by MaryAnn Davis. And I had this yarn also gifted to me from Tina. This is a Red Heart Super Saver yarn in a discontinued colorway, which I really think is awesome. It's called Black Fleck. And I had a full skein of this, which it was a 5-ounce skein, so 260 yards. This is, again, worsted weight acrylic the flecks are a little bit different. So it's 96% acrylic and 4% other fibers. But I ended up using the entirety of that skein. This is the only little bit of yarn that I had left over. So I was surprised by that it took that much yarn. But the original pattern, I should grab one that I made for my kids. I have it handy. So here is another one that I had made for my kids, and you can see this one needs to be washed. It's really dirty right here around the mouth. But anyway, this one is the original. Well, the original pattern comes with options to make this neck piece, or you can make it shorter, but I've always knit it with the neck flare piece on it. It's knit from the bottom up, and then you pick up and knit the ribbing at the very end. And for this one, at first I started, because on this red one, it has these extra flaps that come down on the front and back. And so I wanted to copy that style. And I had first started off knitting a flap, and I thought I would just knit a flap, put it on hold, and then knit the other flap, put it on hold, and then pick up and start knitting the balaclava as per the pattern. But I was having a few problems with that. And in the end, I just decided to knit the balaclava per the pattern. And then in the end, I went back, picked up stitches, and knit down for these flaps. So what I did, I made the adult small size, but I adjusted my needle size quite a bit. I have found with these, I use the recommended needle, which is a US 8 5mm, and I've just found that the fabric that it makes is a little bit too thin. You can see here that you can see my fingers right through the fabric when it's stretched out, which it does stretch out when you put it on. And so I wanted to make a bit of a tighter fabric. So I went down to a US 5 3.75mm needle, and I knit the adult small size. But whenever it gave instructions for knitting a length, like a few times it says knit until you have 4 inches of fabric, for example, I would always follow the adult medium size instructions for the length. This man that this is going to is not a huge man. He's pretty small in stature for a man. So I don't think that he'll need it to be very big. I tried this on my 14-year-old son, who's about the same size, and it fit him really well. So I'm hoping it will fit him okay. So anyway, I followed the pattern for the balaclava as I already described. And then I went back in and I picked up stitches along the front piece and the back piece and just knit these flaps. When I was first making the first flap that I mentioned, I noticed I was just following the rib pattern, and I noticed that the sides were curling in. So when I knit these flaps, I did a 5-stitch garter edging so that it would lay flatter, and that's worked really well. But then I just followed the same knit and purl pattern for the ribbing as in the pattern. And I just finished this a few minutes ago, and I am planning to give this to the gentleman that's going to tomorrow at church. So I wanted to be sure to show this off to you all before I gave it to him. I'm really hopeful that he'll be happy with the fit and everything. It's got great stretch to it, so I'm hoping it will fit him really well and that he'll be happy with it. So those are my finished objects that I wanted to share with you all. So I was able to get the scarf and mittens off to my mom in the mail, and she just received them yesterday. When I was on the phone with her, she happened to just be getting home and grabbed her mail and said, "Oh, your package is here." And I thought maybe she'd want to wait until her birthday, but she wanted to open them right away, and she did, and she loves both of the things that I made for her. So I'm so happy with that. She said that the scarf was going to be a perfect match to go with the hat, so that is great. And I'm really happy that she is excited about them and happy with them. The balaclava, I was not able to give to the recipient yet. We have 2 different church services, and he went to the second church service and we went to the first one. So I didn't see him, but I did see his son at the first service, and I asked if he would give the balaclava to his dad. and I hope he did. He said he would. They work together as farmers, so I'm assuming that he was able to get that to his dad, but I just haven't gotten a chance to see him yet, so hopefully on Sunday I will get to see him, and hopefully it fits and he's happy with how it fits. I'll let y'all know how that worked out. I always forget what to tell you what I'm wearing when I first start. Today I am wearing the Ladies Autumn Whirlpool design by Natalie Pelykh. I knit this sweater back in 2020, and I added the beading to the yoke of the sweater, which I just love so much. I consider this kind of my Christmassy sweater because of the color and the special beading. It kind of makes it more, festive, I guess. So anyway, I really, really love this sweater. I will link to the episode where this was a finished object if you just want to get some more information about it and see, I made a lot of modifications, I'm pretty sure. I usually do. And I'm pretty sure that I did for this garment as well. So if you're interested in checking out more information about this sweater, I will link to the episode that I talked about it as a finished object in the description box below. I did knit it out of my own hand-dyed yarn on a fingering weight, non-superwash fine merino wool base. And then I have an update about this afghan that I shared on my last episode. I crocheted this for my mother-in-law as a Christmas gift, and I used a pattern that is no longer available, and I didn't realize that until after I had posted that last episode. Several of you viewers let me know that it wasn't available, so thank you for letting me know that. I apologize that I didn't realize that ahead of time. The original pattern is called Show Off Your Colors, and it's just a wonderful design by a lady named Andrea Delhey, but she has stopped having her patterns be available, and just because it was too much for her to manage. Understandably, I am actually the same. I used to sell a few crochet patterns on Etsy a long, long time ago, and I stopped selling my patterns. And a few people had asked if I would keep mine up, but just the maintenance of answering any questions that people might have, and getting updates and things if there was any mistakes, or I don't know. It was just a lot to take on, and I just wasn't interested in continuing on with those patterns and continuing to help out those that had bought the pattern. So it was just a lot to manage. So I completely understand her viewpoint in that, and not wanting to sell the pattern anymore, and even not wanting to continue to make the pattern available, just because then you're responsible for making sure people understand it and things like that, answering questions. Anyway, so it's not available, and it's, I asked, is it possible for me to share how the stitch is done? And she said, no, I really don't feel comfortable with that either, because people did pay for the pattern, and she said, I don't think that's fair for those that did pay for it to now make it free for everybody, which I understand that as well. So I'm sorry, this exact pattern is not available, but a wonderful viewer, Marie of World Peas 00 Knits, she also has a really great YouTube channel that I will link to down below. She found a different YouTube tutorial for a stitch pattern that's very, very similar to this. And it's called the Speedy Granny Ruth Crochet Bedspread. And the tutorial on YouTube is by The Secret Yarnery. And I just watched it, and it's a great tutorial. It goes over the stitch really well. It's, again, very, very similar to this. It's not exact. It's not the exact same stitch. I will hold this one up close if you just want to get an idea of the different size of the stitches, I guess. And you can kind of compare this to the one by the Secret Yarnery. But it is very, very similar, so you could definitely check out that tutorial and get an idea of how to make this. On her tutorial, she leaves tassels on the ends instead of, I crocheted over my ends, or you could, of course, weave in your ends whenever you change colors. But she just leaves tassels, so that's a great option as well. Now, the tassels would be on the sides, I believe, when normally on a blanket you would have tassels on the top and the bottom, but of course it doesn't matter. It'd still look great on the sides too. So anyway, that's a little bit of a variation as well. But again, thank you so much, Marie. I truly appreciate you finding that tutorial and sharing that with us. I will link to that down below as well if you want to check out that tutorial. And yeah, this was such a fun blanket to make, so I would highly recommend you at least checking out that tutorial if you want to make something similar anyway. I have one more finished object that I was able to finish since the last time I recorded, and this is the Musselburgh hat that I was knitting for my friend Abby to go along with her mittens that I shared. So I am really happy with how this turned out. It did take a little bit longer to make because it's made out of fingering weight. This was just held singly. I could have probably held it double like I did with the mittens, but I just wanted to try it with the fingering weight. So this pattern is the Musselburgh hat by Ysolda Teague. Very, very popular pattern, and rightly so. It's just a really cool pattern. It's really fun that you don't have to take a gauge swatch before you start. You just measure your gauge as you go along and then adjust the increases according to your gauge. So that's great. The yarn that I used for this is Yarn Bee Authentic Hand Dyed Luxe in Ocean Ripple. And I knit the child adult small size using US 2.5 3mm needles. And my gauge was 7 stitches to 1 inch. So I just followed the directions for that. I used the pinhole cast on by Very Pink Knits, which I will link to that tutorial down below to start it. And then the way that this pattern is knit is you just knit a really long tube and then you fold it in on itself. I knew pretty much, I figured that I would be running out of the yarn, and so I had grabbed another skein from my stash. This is a yarn that I dyed myself, and if I recall, it doesn't really matter because I don't dye or sell my hand-dyed yarn anymore anyway, but I believe I had called this colorway Stream of Water. And anyway, I just had found that in my stash and I thought it matched pretty well. It's not, of course, not a perfect match, but it has the similar colors in it. And I just finished off the hat with that color. You could, and then anyway, you just fold it in on itself so that it's a double thickness, and that's really nice. And then you can wear it like this with more of a slouch fit to it, or you can also fold up the cuff and then it has even more thickness around your ears, which would be really nice. So that's really cute. And she, of course, could wear it with the other color on the outside and it has kind of that two-toned look. It's cuter with the brim up, I think. If she wanted to wear that side up, she could. But I kind of intended for it just to be hidden inside because this side, of course, will match the mittens. So I hope that this fits Abby as well. The gloves or the mittens turned out as a perfect fit, which is so great. So I hope that this is a great fit as well. And I hope that you love it, Abby. So I'm excited to be able to get this to you hopefully soon. All right, on to my works in progress. The first one is being held in this bag that I made myself. And it is a pair of socks for Abby's aunt. So she and her sister had asked if I would be willing to knit a pair of socks for their aunt, and I was more than happy to do that. So this is in a color that I had dyed myself as well, but I didn't name this colorway. It was just a one-of-a-kind. I cast on 60 stitches using US 0.2mm needles and did 1x1 ribbing for 20 rounds. And then I moved into 5x1 ribbing. I did adjust my stitches on my needles after a while so that the 5x1 ribbing would be more centered, so that the row starts with a knit 3, purl 1, and then knit 5, purl 1, until the end where I'm left with 2 knit stitches, just so that the ribbing is more centered. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not perfectly centered, but it's a little bit more centered. It doesn't really matter. It's just a 2-stitch difference. So anyway, I knit 5x1 ribbing for the leg on the front and the back for 60 rounds for the leg. And then I moved into a slip stitch heel flap. And I have just finished the decreases for the gusset. So now I'm on to knitting just plain. I'm just doing plain stockinette on the bottom of the foot and continuing the 5x1 ribbing on the top of the feet. I always knit my socks 2 at a time like this. It's just my favorite. That way I can make sure they match and I don't have to worry about counting rows as much because I just do them all at once, and it's just my perfect way of making socks. I love it. Anyway, here is a very cute progress keeper. I'm pretty sure this was by Amanda of Little Bitty Delights. It's super cute. Cup of hot cocoa with some peppermint in there and some whipped cream, and it's just super cute. Anyway, that's marking where I was the last time I recorded and showed these off. So I've made a lot of progress on these. I'm happy with that. And yeah, now it's super simple. She wears a size 7.5, women's US size 7.5, which is smaller than my feet. So I'm, expecting that these will go pretty quickly now, as I don't have as much knitting to do as what I'm used to for socks. So hopefully they'll be done pretty quickly. I have really enjoyed seeing this colorway knit up. I'm super happy with how it's knitting up. Unfortunately, I did not write down how I dyed this yarn, so I really don't know how to replicate it, but it's fun to knit up anyway. My next work in progress is in another bag that I made myself, and this is just a one-of-a-kind bag. I wanted to make one that was gingerbread themed to go along with this beautiful yarn that I was gifted by Emma of Potter and Bloom. I shared these last time as well. This yarn is by West Yorkshire Spinners in the gingerbread colorway, and I am really loving these. I did mention on the last episode that I wanted to go through a stripe repeat every day, and I've definitely not been able to keep up with that, but I've still been really enjoying these. So I started off with just a bare yarn, which is 75-25, a 75-25 blend, and I cast on 60 stitches again using US 0 2mm needles again, and I did a 2x1 ribbing for 20 rounds. And then I've just done straight stockinette for the legs. This cute little progress keeper that I made. I didn't actually make the gingerbread, I ordered the charm, but just put it on a little clasp, so it wasn't too much craftiness there on my part. But anyway, I did put that together, and that is marking where I was last time I recorded. I am going to do one more, let's see, I'm on a red and white stripe, and I'm gonna go until I get to the end of another green and white stripe, and then I will do the heels. I'm going to use the bare yarn for the heels and the toes as well. And I am just loving these so much. I absolutely love how that colorway is knitting up. It's so much fun. This yarn is 75% wool, 25% nylon, and it does contain blue faced Leicester, but other than that, it doesn't say what the wool is made out of. But it's wonderful. I really have enjoyed working with this yarn. This is the second time that Emma has gifted me the Christmassy yarn by West Yorkshire Spinners, and I just love it so much. I feel so blessed to be able to have this yarn. So I'm really enjoying those so much. My next work in progress is being held in one more bag that I made myself. This I made out of some remnants of, I had made these bags and sold them, and then I had a few remnants left over. So on my back piece, you can see that I had to piece a few pieces together to make my bag, but that's okay. So I had mentioned that I made a balaclava for my husband, and I had made that at the beginning of this year, in January, I believe. And he wore it through the winter until spring, but it was too big for him. he has a very large head, and I had knit the extra large size for him, but it just turned out too big and it was just too large on him. So I ripped it out and I have started over. So this time, here's the yarn ripped out. It is Lion Brand Vanna Choice in the gray marble colorway, which is 92% acrylic and 8% rayon worsted weight. The original pattern calls for you to use US 8 5mm needles, and again I went down to US 5 3.75mm needles for my husband's just to tighten up the gauge. I hope it's not going to turn out too small, but I think it will be okay. I'm hopeful that it will be okay. If it turns out too small, it'll just go to one of my kids, so that's no problem. And then I'll just make him another one, but I think this will be better. I really like the gauge that I'm getting with the US 5 needles for this pattern, so that's what I'm doing. So I have just started. I haven't made too much progress here, and I am using, did I say I'm making the large size instead of the extra large size. So I am still doing the shoot, what does she call it? The flared collar. I have done that every time I've made this balaclava, and I am doing that again. So I'm just on the flared collar section for this pattern, but it's a fun and easy pattern. Right now I'm just doing the ribbed section, so that's super easy and going well. I wanted to give an update on 2 of my Scrappy blankets that I am making. The first one is out of this vintage book by Leisure Arts. It's the Scrappy Yarn Afghans book 2. And I am making this blanket right here, which is called the Granny's Daughter, and it's a design by Nancy Fuller. So it requires you to make 836 of these tiny little granny squares using up just like an arm's length of worsted weight yarn. So I am using any tiny little scraps of my acrylic worsted weight yarns to make this blanket. And I just thought I would share. It's kind of hard to share my progress on this project because it is just a ton of little tiny granny squares. But I thought I would share every time I got a bunch of 100 that, you know, I've made a bit of progress. So I have this bag. I'm just going to keep a group of 100 in a baggie until I have 800 and what was it again? I don't know. Over 800 of them, and I'm ready to start joining them together, which just sounds so incredibly exciting. I bet it's going to be so exciting to start joining them together. But I suppose you could start making, it's made in panels, like strips. I suppose you could just start making the strips at any point, but I really want to make all, what was it again? 836 before I start piecing them together. So just for the main purpose of being able to have a true, I want the colors to be well distributed throughout the entire blanket. And so if I did one strip, you know, I would have a lot of the same colors in one strip, and I want to make sure that the colors are distributed evenly throughout the blanket as much as possible. But I'm so excited about this project. Anyway, I'm following the pattern exactly. I'm using a 4mm G hook by Clover. I do have a few more squares in here, 43, I just counted them. So I have 43 more little itty bitty granny squares. It's just one round of a simple granny square for the first round, and it takes me just a minute or two to whip one of these up, so it's super easy and fast. And I have a few more little balls of worsted weight yarn. This is another little scrap from my husband's balaclava that I ripped out. And I don't think I'll probably need this because I am knitting it at a tighter gauge and a smaller size, so I don't think I'll need that little bit, but I'll wait to use that until I'm done. But anyway, a lot of the yarn that I have used is much smaller than these. Like I said, I only need an arm's length to make a square, so Anyway, but these are just probably too small to be put into any other project. So I've put them in here to most likely work them into this project as well. I'm just holding this in this little basket, and I'm going to probably set this baggie of 100 aside and, just keep it in storage until I have all of them done. But it's really just such a fun project. And as if you've watched before, I absolutely love using up the tiniest little scraps of yarn to make something, where this yarn would normally just be, well, what I normally do, in fact, what I do with yarn left over from this project, if it's not an arm's length, I put it in a drawer that we have in our kitchen that's full of crafty supplies for my kids to use. That's where we keep our, scissors and glue and random things like that the kids can use for crafts. And so I just put my extra yarn in there for them to use up for different things. They're always using yarn for different things to tie different, I don't know, they use it for their tractors and tying it on their stuffies and things like that. But I'm just super happy to use up as much of my scraps as I can to make a beautiful blanket for our family to use. So I absolutely love that process so much, of being able to use up scraps to make a blanket. And the other project that I wanted to give an update on is my Excavation afghan, which I haven't shared in a really long time. This is a pattern that I have been working on since 2017. It is a free pattern by Jana Pahota. And this project it's kind of my memory blanket. So whenever I finish a project using fingering weight yarn, I add a stripe of the color that I have left over. If I have enough of it, I add a stripe to this blanket. At this point, I have decreased quite a bit. I'll stand up so that you can see how it looks in just a second. But I only need about 2 grams of yarn to make a stripe on this blanket now. So that's really nice. Of course, every row is getting 1 stitch shorter because I do a decrease at the end of each row. This pattern is super, super simple. You start off way down here on this corner, and you start off with increasing every row. And you leave a tail of the extra yarn at the end here, and then that will become just, tassels or fringe at the end of the blanket. So it's similar to that, the Secret Yarnery pattern, where she just leaves tassels instead of weaving in ends at the end of each row. And you just increase every row, and it's just all garter stitch. So you do 1 color stripe, turn around, or you go across an increase, and then you turn around and come back with an increased stitch and leave a tail again. I hope that makes sense, but of course I'll link to the pattern if it doesn't. The original pattern, if I remember right, yes, the original pattern calls for you, once you get to the halfway point, to just turn your work around, and then half of your blanket would be showing the right side and half of your blanket would be showing the wrong side. But I wanted my entire blanket to be all one side with the right side showing and the wrong side to all be the wrong side, if that makes sense. I hope so. So I've modified the pattern where once I got to the halfway point, then I started, instead of knitting all of the stitches, I started purling all of the stitches. So that's definitely not everybody's cup of tea. Most people, it seems like, don't enjoy purling. I do not mind purling at all. I think it's just as easy and relaxing as knitting is. So I don't mind it at all. In fact, a long time ago, I haven't timed myself recently, but a long time ago when I was more of a new knitter, I timed myself and I was actually faster at purling than knitting. But that could very well have changed by now. I don't know. Anyway, so now I purl across and I purl the last 2 stitches together and do that for every row. So last time I shared this project, I was way down here where this beautiful progress keeper that Erica of Rose Opal Knits made and gifted to me, and I love it so much. That's marking where I was last time I recorded this, so I've added several inches to this project. and I counted my stitches. I thought it would be less than this. Now I forget exactly how much it was, but it was still over 200 stitches on the needles. But it seems like it's getting so short every time I add a new color. I'm surprised by how quickly I get to the end of the row because I was so used to it being such a long blanket. I forget what I increased to. Let me see. I increased to 618 stitches before I started decreasing. So it is a lot shorter than it used to be. And it's exciting to see it getting, close to the end, but it still will probably take me a long time to finish this up because of course I have to finish a fingering weight project before I ever add any stripe to this blanket. But if I ever make scrappy fingering weight scrappy projects, if I have leftovers, then that, adds up a lot of stripes. But I don't, normally I just will make a project, maybe of course like socks. I usually just use 1 or 2 colors in my socks. So it will still take a while to finish up this blanket, but it's just such an enjoyable project. I don't mind if it takes a while to finish it because I will be sad when I finish it, and I will probably just start a brand new one as soon as I do finish it. I have several progress keepers marking the years that I've added colors to this. So here is a progress keeper marking, it actually says 2021, and that's the end of the projects that I finished in 2021. And so from that marker and up is all of the projects that I finished this year in fingering weight yarn, of course. And even if I hold fingering weight yarn double, I'll still put a stripe in here. So I made a sweater out of these colors that you see right in here, the one I wore last time on my last episode. And I added those colors in here. And then also I added a stripe of the yarn that I held double for Abby's mittens. And even though I held that double, I still add that in. So even, no matter what, if I'm using fingering weight yarn, I'll add it to this blanket. So you will see throughout the blanket, I have different markers marking each year. So this section is 2021 projects. And then here are 2020. 2019, 2018, I had a big section for 2018, and here's the start of it in 2017, and that's actually the year that I started knitting. And so actually every single project that I've ever knitted using fingering weight yarn is in here. But if I ever use fingering weight yarn for crochet projects, I also add them in. That doesn't just have to be knitting, of course, but it's kind of cool that I started this blanket the same year that I started knitting. So it's really such a fun memory blanket. Okay, I'll stand up so you can see it. I think I'll hold it upside down with the oldest part on the top here. It might be easier for me to show you that way. I don't know, it's still going to be kind of tricky to show it. Oh, it's hard to hold it. Okay, there we go. Just to kind of give you an idea of how it's looking. Oof-da. That's as good as I can do. But you can kind of see that there's really not a ton left on this bottom corner here. Hopefully you can see that. I can't see what I'm showing you very well, so hopefully you get an idea of how this is looking, but it's just got such a great feel to it. It, even though it's fingering weight, it's still got a good weight to it, and it's just really fun. I love it. I love looking back through the colors and remembering what I made with all of these. So I think that is all that I have to share with you all today. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. If you did, please feel free to give this episode a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I would really appreciate that. I hope you all are doing really well. I probably won't see you before Christmas again, so I hope that you all have a very Merry Christmas and enjoy your holidays. Thanks so much for joining me today. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.